Welcome everybody to Snowy Valleys Council meeting of the 12th of December. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and pay respects to the elders past and present. This meeting is live streamed on Council's website to allow the community to follow debates and decisions without the need to attend the meeting in person. Members of the public attending or speaking in a meeting agree to have their image, voice and personal information, including name and address, recorded and publicly broadcast. Snowy Valleys Council does not accept liability for any defamatory remarks or inappropriate comments that are made during the course of the meeting. Any part of the meeting that is held in closed session will not be streamed. Please ensure that all mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or are in silent mode for the duration of the meeting, and no recording of voice or images is permitted. In the event of emergency, please evacuate the building using the nearest exit to follow the instructions given by the wardens. Do not use the lift. Councillors, apologies. An apology from Phil Stone. Any other apologies? Have a mover for apologies. Councillor Isselman and Councillor Cross. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Declaration of pecuniary interest. Councillor Benjamin.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Adriana Benjamin declaring that I have a pecuniary interest in relation to report 10.4, MA number 2019/0032, part only, 71 Union Street, Tumut. Change of use of existing hotel to medical centre. Proposed reduction in car parking spaces due to being project manager of the construction, and will be leaving the room for discussion.
Thank you, Councillor Benjamin. There's no public forum. Confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the 21st of November. Councillor Larder, Councillor Wright. Is any business arising today or any?
Mr Mayor, I was wondering if we could have an update on where the waste grant that we're putting for BOGO is up to, please.
Through you, Mr Chair, we're hoping to have an announcement by the Christmas.
Thank you.
And it'll be positive. Maybe.
Anything further?
Yes, could I, through you, Mr Mayor, ask the General Manager how things are going with Ross Corner Medical Centre, being the GP is leaving on the 19th, and also not just how the centre's going, but also the 2 people employed there, what's happening?
Through the Chair, Councillor, just a quick update on Ross Corner Medical Centre. So we're currently working with Murrumbidgee Local Health to secure a doctor. However, there is some issues around a GP or a VMO, and unlikely to be able to get that sorted by the 19th of December. We do have some offers for locums in mid-January, and we're working through the details of that at the moment. And we're also looking at COAG funding through the agency. And the practice manager services and receptionists have been secured through our external staffing company, and that will allow the centre to stay open, including pathology, physiotherapists and the dentist operations over that period.
Okay, so basically it will stay open, and then hopefully in mid-January we will have a GP.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything further from those minutes? Councillor Larder.
Could maybe just get an update on whether we've had any response from the RFS about the airport taxiway upgrade?
Yeah, through you, Mr Chair, the submission was for the funding was submitted today, as per the due date, and it did include a letter from the RFS, just explaining their willingness to negotiate subject to the outcome of the funding as to what their contribution, how that will all look.
Yeah. Well, just to make a note on there, I understand the RFS are in principle supportive of it, but just so the council's aware, some of the discussions that I've heard are that there's a bit of an issue around supporting the development of the infrastructure around the airport if the airport doesn't meet their requirements in the longer term. And therefore it could be an issue for us in that if we don't look at making those more substantial upgrades, then they could divest themselves of Tumut for their operations and move to Wagga.
Through Mr. Chair, and yeah, very much support that. And the intention is that the submission for funding we've made is only the first stage, and part of the work that will come out of that is to get some more detail together about what the subsequent stages might look like and the justification of that. So yes, there is every intention that we continue on with upgrading our area drainage.
Thank you. Nothing further from those minutes? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Takes us to 7.1 notice of motion from Councillor Pritchard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I just alter the words a little bit to make it more palatable? In view of the imminent, very serious fire season, we urgently, where practical, facilitate the establishment of a permanent fire break west of Tumut from the Tumut Golf Course towards the old rubbish tip in Bondaroo Road.
So you want to establish putting where practicable?
Yes. And facilitate the establishment of a permanent fire break. I mean, yeah. Just turning it around a bit from.
I think you got that there. Sure, can you just
That was your original.
So we'll just type it. Can we just hold a while
Yeah,
and
sure.
we'll just type that in? So in view.
Through you, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
the officer's recommendation is the one that's being flagged. So
Right.
are we reworking the officer's recommendation or Councillor Pritchard's notice of motion in the paper?
Yes, notice of motion in the
So it
paper
won't
with
be
the
reflected in the
variation.
minutes.
So if
It's
we
only
type it
the
in.
recommendation.
Yep, so let's type it.
What are we typing?
In view of the imminent, very serious fire season,
We urgently,
where practical,
yes,
Where practical, establish,
facilitate the establishment
facilitate the establishment
of a permanent fire break
west of Tumut.
west of Tumut from the Tumut Golf Course
from the Tumut Golf Course.
towards the old rubbish tip in Bondaroo Road.
Street or road? Road.
It's a road, I didn't realise it was a road.
We have to check this one later. So this is view variances.
Yeah, that's fine.
Comma?
Yep.
Where practical. Facilitate the establishment.
can you just blow that up a little bit for me? Thanks, Jim. That's great.
Okay.
So it's the bottom one?
So you're noting that we replaced the council officer's recommendation with the original, just reworked. Can any other councillor see any difficulties in that or issues there?
Just clarification, what you're saying that we don't accept the count officer's recommendation, but we accept that one?
Yeah, well, let's go through the general manager.
So what goes up in is what the councillor moves. So the staff officer makes a recommendation, that doesn't necessarily go anywhere. What Councillor Pritchard is moving at the moment is a variation on his original notice of motion. So that's what's up there at the moment. So he's moved it, it's up there. If you want to discuss it, then
Yeah,
it's a
second.
second. Just delete that.
I'm happy to see.
Councillor Larkin.
First, I'd like to acknowledge the Rural Fire Service for an extraordinary job they've been doing up north and what they're doing around here, and in no way do I want to interfere with their activities. The reason I put this motion up is that the bushfires around here come late in the season in January and February, so it's inevitable that we will be in the same situation as many of the areas up north.
Yep.
And if so, there'll be all hands on deck and all agencies will have to be involved. And I was looking at the vulnerability of Tumut particularly. The winds in the fire seasons come strongly from the west. We're pretty secure from the east with the flat lands and the river, and our big vulnerability is and in the west we're protected by the Tumut Golf Course, which is a large area, and it's watered by the recycling water, so it's nice and green. It's a terrific fire break. But beyond, south of there, when you're going down towards the old bush common and down towards the rubbish tip, is scrubby land and it's not well maintained, and the residents have made recommendations to the Tumut Community Association. That's something we've done about it, and looking at the area, it's obvious that we do need something that I don't want to interfere with. I'm not suggesting that we override the Rural Fire Services recommendations, but we have to do something about it, in my opinion, before the bushfires hit us. So I'll put that notice.
So, thank you, Councillor Hand.
I think what Councillor Pritchard is saying is very apt and very, very apt at the moment. But I just wonder whether it's something that we should do for every little town, every town.
I think so.
Just that we should be a bit proactive and say, you know, what should we be doing in every town? Or through the chair, is that something we already have?
Acting Director.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, without entering into the debate, some of the land as described by Councillor Pritchard is certainly Crown and forestry land. So it'd be great to be able to build something into this resolution that enables us to approach the land owners and ask them to participate in partnership with us to try and minimise those risks and hazards to those properties.
So the word facilitate, does that sort of allow us to be able to, is that enough to allow us to just go and talk to them, or do you want to say facilitate or negotiate with the respective land, something like that?
The thing is, I don't want to hold it up, and as far as Crown Land's concerned, I mean, it seems to suit them to leave it to the farmers. A lot of Crown roads go through our properties, and the Crown property, but it's left in the hands of the landowners to do whatever they like to it. And so you know, they need to cooperate. I don't think we should get involved in a ping-pong match about who's responsible. What I think we just have to get on and do it.
That may be difficult if we go and own land.
Well, we don't own our lands in our own properties.
So through the chair, if I may, so council becomes trustee for certain Crown lands, and on those lands where we're trustee, we have certain actions that we can take. Where we're not trustee, we have no rights, and there's a whole lot of implications about native title and heritage significance, etc. So my reading of and what would be legal of that resolution would be about where practical facilitate. So we would not necessarily be able to conduct those works, unless we were trustees and we had the relevant permission to do that. So long as the councillors are aware that that's our limitation around this, we'll do our best to if the resolution gets up, do our best to facilitate that. And where we can take direct action, we will take direct action, but we can't do something illegal.
Councillor Larson,
I completely agree with Councillor Pritchard, but there's quite an irony here with this notice of motion that nobody's probably picked up on, that we're actually going to defer to the RFS to give some expert advice on this particular area, because they've actually got the grog goggles on when it comes to this particular area, because this is where these people want to move their fire centre. This is where they want to control and coordinate the fires for this region, in this very spot that is likely to burn down. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. These people from the RFS and the forestry wanting to move to this spot that Councillor Pritchard rightly says is a hot zone. It's identified as a hot zone. They've been advised that this is one of the most stupidest decisions, planning decisions, that could ever be brought upon this area, to build a multi-million-dollar facility in a place that expert firefighters like Graham Sturr are saying is complete madness. Complete madness. But the bureaucracy at forestry and the bureaucracy at the RFS, they've got the grog goggles on, because they think this is a go-to project. They think this is fantastic. And despite what the local emergency management committee, who unanimously said that this was a dopey decision, and they didn't support it. So the Minister, Mr Elliott, has asked me to provide him with a brief on this, and I'll be doing that in the near future, because we just don't seem to be able to talk any sense into forestry and RFS about why this is so stupid. Everyone at a local level that I've spoken to says it's dumb, crazy, but senior bureaucrats and management seem to think it's okay. So it's got my full support, Councillor Pritchard.
Thank you, Councillor Cross.
I think the one thing that I would like to see in there, as well as facilitate with those agencies that are responsible for fire mitigation, and looking at creating a hazard reduction plan for the whole of Snowy Valleys Council in partnership with Rural Fire Services and other land agencies, rather than just in particular Tumut.
So, Councillor Pritchard, would you be happy if after facilitate we put where practical facilitate with relevant agencies?
I just don't want to, I'm not against anything like that, but I don't want to hold it up. The fire seasons are just about upon us.
Well,
and we certainly had a long debate with the other townships. I've been pushing for years to have buffer zones around the townships, particularly with the pine forest. We saw what happened in the 2003 bushfires when they went across to Canberra. Yep. It went and devastated the western part of Canberra, yes, because they had all the pine forests around it. Well, and we've got the state forests up here. Just
look, I think personally, and from my experience, I think our Tumut's greatest risk on a catastrophic fire day will be ember attack, and that ember attack will come from the top of the snubber. It won't come from the bush common. It will come from the top of the snubber. So that's what you know, on a catastrophic day, like the 2003 day. So you know, this is probably a bit of a band-aid, and it'll probably make people feel a bit happier, and it'll stop those small grass fires. But on a catastrophic day, it's just.
It's just when a fire front starts, they can't put it out. I'm sure the ember attacks are a real problem. But the other thing is that we need to have a policy of the trees that people should not plant around their houses. You know, after the Ash Wednesday fires in South Australia in 2003, no, that's the Canberra ones in 1983, I think it was. They made a list of the trees which protected houses, and that's what we should be doing, and encouraging Landcare to make available for the landowners. It's a massive issue. What our main responsibility for is to protect our community from the upcoming bushfires.
So are you happy to have facilitate with relevant agencies, or do you want to list?
Well, yes, I'm happy with that as long as it doesn't hold us up.
We'll do our best to have it happen. Councillor Cross.
Mr Mayor, in addition, I think what Councillor Pritchard is also bringing up is that we need to look at the development application process for people who do want to live near.
Well, that's all part of the development application. It is now.
That they should have overhead sprinklers, all of that sort of thing.
Part of that. Often the development application process is held up because it's with Rural Fire Service. Okay, Councillor Ham, and then we'll...
Could we have the second recommendation say that this sets a precedent for all towns within the Snowy Valleys Council?
Yeah.
Do you want to,
Yeah.
through as chair, to say,
Snowy Valleys Council, was it?
rather than sets a precedent, we actually say what it is we want to do, so that Snowy Valleys Council facilitate this type of measure in association with relevant agencies across the whole council region.
In the next 12 months.
Happy with that addition, Councillor Fisher?
Thanks, Jim.
Mr Mayor, just one very quick. I'll just make an observation that Rural Fire Service has provided an emergency service map for the township of Batlow. It's on full display, and I don't know if that happens in any of the other villages, and that's something that is really worthwhile and very important to the community, that, you know, evacuation zones and that sort of thing. So maybe that could be our future, not just now, but I'm just putting it on the table.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're good with that? Okay. Councillor Pritchard, do you propose to make?
We're all in agreement. Just the one thing that I didn't bring up was, I think it's for another time, is the lack of the communications that we get during these events. They had a communication blackout in Tumut a week ago.
Yeah.
Everything went. We had no way of knowing. We didn't have the church bells going. We didn't have the sirens going.
Bring back the church bells.
Yeah, we just left it in limbo, and we need to look at the best overall plans of protecting our communities.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We're all finished. Let's close the debate. I'll put the motion. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. Councillors, we've got a mayoral minute here that council regarding the Boundaries Commission. Do I have a second for that? Councillor Ham. So we need to insert a date there where we have an extraordinary meeting.
Tuesday the 28th.
So the time we're looking at is Tuesday the 28th of January. The date and the time. Well, it doesn't know about the time, so just the date.
Councillors, since this report was drafted, the official notice has come out regarding the boundary review referral to the Boundaries Commissioner, and the due date for submissions is now Friday the 31st of January. So the meeting on Tuesday the 28th of January will allow us a little bit of time to get that submission finished, if that's what Council wants to do, and lodge.
Yeah, Councillor Ham.
Do you mind if I just speak on this just a minute?
Certainly, Councillor Ham.
Thank you.
Very hard.
No, I think it should be acknowledged that this Boundary Commission thing means a lot to a lot of people around, particularly around the Tumut region. And last week, 200 people attended a meeting in Tumut. It was, I've heard, it was a very civil meeting. The group, the Save the Right Tumut Shire, and probably the Tumut Chamber of Commerce have worked very hard for this. They're one of the 2 council areas that have got this through, and their advocacy for what they want is commendable. But this is their time. This is everyone's time to put forward submissions how they feel about how it's working. And I would encourage everyone to do so, and I will, there's going to be a council submission, but I certainly will be putting in my own personal submission.
Councillor Ham, you further?
Just to
Oh.
sorry, my apologies, Mr Mayor. Just to have clarification, this is submission to say to the Minister that the issue should go to the Boundaries Commission, is that correct?
That's all.
That's it.
That's all. It's not a submission to say a whole lot of stuff about what Council has been doing and so on. It's a submission as to why the Minister should go. The Minister should ask the Boundaries Commission to look at it. Is that correct?
Through the Chair, if I may, I would refer people to the Office of Local Government website. So there's essentially, if this works through its process, there's two distinct parts of the process. The first question that I believe we're being asked at the moment is, does the Minister refer the matter to the Boundaries Review Commission? And then if that works its way through and that's a positive result from that, then the matter will be referred to the Commission and there'll be further consultation about that. However, I believe there's additional information added to the Office of Local Government website yesterday that gives a little bit of guidance around how people should lodge their submission for the first stage, and I would recommend that people look at those guidelines. That was only added yesterday, and I will include information about that in my report to Council in January.
Thank you so much.
Right. Councillor Cross.
Just looking at point B, the appoint an independent committee member. That recruitment process has been is underway, and we actually had the interviews for another person to join the committee yesterday.
Thank you, Councillor Cross. Councillor Ham.
Sorry, but back to point A about the Boundaries Commission. I just find it like, when do we find out about things like, if this was to go ahead, who pays? That can we write to the Minister and just say, we support that there are some people who are not happy with this, and we have to look at that. But we need to make not only an emotional decision, we need to make a financial decision. And financially, we're all tight at the moment. We're in a drought, things aren't great. We'd hate to, I don't want to make a decision without really knowing how it's going to impact us all financially.
If I may, through the Chair, yesterday I met with Tim Hurst, Deputy Secretary of the Office of Local Government, and the discussion with the General Manager from Cootagundagai Council with us as well has suggested that if Council may wish to consider putting in its submission about whether the matter is referred to the Boundaries Review Commission, that if it gets to the second part of the process, there'd be clarity provided around the conditioning, because at the moment there is no legislative provisions about how this process actually happens. So the legislation allows for an area to be cordoned off as a non-local government area and then made into a local government, but it doesn't talk about how that process happens. My reading of the submission from the Save Tumbarumba Shire Group is that they're requesting that not be paid for by the Tumbarumba community. However, there is no clarity on that matter, and it would be good if it got to the second stage for the community to have clarity about the decision that they make.
Most definitely. Yeah.
They need to know their financial exposure.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Councillor Pritchard.
I'm not against this, Mr Mayor, but when you look at the amalgamation process, I believe that it was to satisfy the needs of Snowy Hydro, and if so, I think reversing it would be well nigh impossible. Now, the reasons why I think the Snowy Hydro was involved is during the amalgamation process, since then, a number of the small working councils who hadn't been amalgamated at all, because the easy ones to do, there would be no problem. I didn't support the amalgamation because I wanted to look at more regional things along the lines of the Riverina Regional Library, having one computer system across the whole area, which would save a whole lot of money. Same LLP across the area. And so I opposed it, but anyway, if we were going to be amalgamated, why did they amalgamate us with Gundagai, which is just a stone's throw away, and we've got
It
much
makes
more
so
in
much more
common?
sense.
It does, and why not?
Yeah.
But they put us within the Tumbarumba. And if you look at the Snowy Hydro area, 2.0 area, there were 5 councils, and now there are only 2. And if I was running Snowy Hydro or any other big business and you wanted to sort out your government support at different
You
levels,
have 2 mayors.
had 2 mayors, and when they appointed the administrators, they both came from the hometown of Snowy Hydro, Coomera. They both came from Coomera. Paul Sullivan was appointed here as the administrator of Tumbarumba Tumut, and Dean Lynch was the former mayor of Coomera, was appointed as the administrator for the 3 councils on that side. Both of them came from the same town as Snowy Hydro, and Dean Lynch went on to be as an executive appointed to the Snowy Hydro as a communications officer. So, bring it all together, I think Snowy Hydro would have been very happy with it happening. Whether they were behind it or not is anyone's question. But they're the only group that's benefited by
That's
the
really
amalgamation.
benefiting from it.
And they may go on to Snowy 3.0 and 4.0. So I think behind the scenes they wouldn't be supporting the amalgamation.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard.
Yes,
So, and of course the Boundaries Commission may come back and say, you know, you need to be bigger,
Yeah.
and we'll combine. So we don't know what the Boundaries Commission. So you know,
And the names of the 2 combined shires, one was called Snowy Monero Regional Council, and the other one was Snowy Valleys. Now Tumbarumba's not in a valley. So
now,
both
Councillor Wright, I think, needs to.
I just wanted to say that, you know, I mean, we support some, you know, like this happening. At least then we might get a bit of finality out of the whole thing at the finish of it, like
Yeah.
whichever
Very
way,
divisive.
you know, like
Yes.
That's been terrible.
we
It's been
can
terrible.
get over it, get on with our lives after.
Absolutely. Now, just on B, Councillor Cross mentioned the interviews that have been held. Mr. General Manager.
Just to provide some clarity around what Councillor Cross has indicated, the interview process has happened, so the committee member for the recruitment process has already been determined. The council will need to resolve who becomes the member. So if council mover and seconder is pleased to finalise the recruitment process, out of that recommendation there, that would suit that purpose.
Because we've done that already. Yes. Thank you. Happy with that, Councillor Ham?
Yes. Thank you.
Nothing further, I'll put the motion. All in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Snowy Region Construction and Development Conference. We have a mover. Councillor Cross, Councillor Wright. Councillor Cross.
I'd like to congratulate you, Mr. Mayor, on your presentation at this conference.
Thank you, and I enjoyed attending, and I enjoyed giving a presentation. It was good, and I hope it's all soon.
Ross, may I just make?
Councillor Disselman.
And congratulations. Your presentation was, as I attended that conference, the highlight of the conference.
Thank you so much, Councillor Disselman.
And in reference to that as well, I attended this conference for the second time, and I do believe it didn't have quite the substance, or no disrespect to your presentation.
There's always a sting in the tail.
Didn't mean it that way. I would question if they hold one next year again to look more closely at whether we attend, because I don't think it had the detail that we were looking from the first one. So,
Thank you. Any further? Motion, all in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Kind of request here for Councillor Ham, who has attended this. Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. Thank you, Councillor Wright.
I've been that one.
You.
And can I tell you, so this is the Rising Regions Conference, and this is very much about building regional populations. And Liz Ritchie, who is the CEO of Regional Association Institute, is just brilliant. She's in Canberra. I recommend we get her over here to speak, because her vision for the future is incredible.
Yeah.
But they had some good speakers. One of them was Richard Colburn, who's the CEO of New South Wales Doctors, and he was talking about how hard it is to get doctors, and also the fact that one doctor leaves, needs to be replaced by 3 doctors. And I asked him to clarify what that meant. It was very much the old GP, never went on holidays, was there all the time, delivered babies, did anaesthetics, and was just dedicated. Whereas, people don't live like that anymore. And his figures on how many, yes, there are 500 procedural GPs vacancies in regional Australia at the moment.
We heard that 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Councillor
so
Ham, will you be preparing a report for the February meeting?
would you like me to do that, Mr. Mayor?
I'd love you to, and perhaps one of the recommendations that you could sort of highlight
Yes,
there was
put
the
this in
attendance
that.
of such.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr Mayor, could I please, in Local Government Weekly, there was a notification of the tourism conference in Jindabyne. I noted in that program that there are 4 or 3 tours to various different tourism outlets around Jindabyne, which would be very important to hear as well, and I'd just like to nominate to go on that one early March. Something in January.
Through the Chair, as the matter's not on the agenda, we can't deal with it. However, the expenses, provision of councillors' expenses policy deals with how we can deal with that out of session. So the Mayor and I will facilitate with you out of session and draft a report up to your meeting. So
Thanks for highlighting. Nothing further? Put the motion. All in favour? Yes. Against? Carried. Unanimously. Tribal Code of Conduct Complaints Statistics Reports. 2 recommendations there. Councillor Issel and Councillor Wright. Any comment? Put the motion. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Governance and Finance Reports. Work Risk and Improvement Committee Chair Report. Update. Councillor Ham, you moving that?
No, I'm no longer.
Councillor Cross. Councillor Cross is moving that. Councillor Lard is seconding it. Anything from that? Put the motion. All in favour? Carried. Thanks to the Chair for that report. Statement of investments. Councillor Ham. Councillor Benjamin. Councillor Ham.
Could I just ask about the Alpine Way slope restoration money which was caused by the rock fall? No, we're still taking money out. When's the money? We get that completely back, is that not right?
Through you, Mr Mayor, Councillor, that's correct. However, there is often, and it's not uncommon, that there's a delay between the works and the actual release of funds from the state government back to council.
Through Mr Mayor, is it a cost recovery?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Yes, Councillor, almost always it's 100% recovery.
Thank you. Any further? Motion, all in favour? Unanimous. We've got a late report that's inserted in here. This is 9.6. Financial report. The council received the November interim financial report. Councillor Lada. Councillor Benjamin. Any comments on that?
This very much reflects the quarterly budget review, really, almost to the dollar. So I think that was well discussed last year.
Yeah, I think so. We've gone over it. It's good to have the figures in front of you. Mr General Manager, any comments?
Councillors, as discussed at the last quarterly budget review, just note that we have had extensive discussions on future plans for that at today's workshop, and that will be ongoing.
All in favour? Carried, thank you. Footpath, curb, road, verge policy, feedback from public exhibition. Councillor Wright. 10.1. Seconder, Councillor Benjamin. Councillor Wright.
I've just gone through a list, and I think we do something like, have an extra policy on this verge thing about like roadside grazing and that sort of thing. We've got a huge fuel load out there I see growing, particularly around Tumut, that's massive. And we're in a drought. Surely people could run stock down there and feed the stock and also lower the fire risk. Because I think most fires start on the side of the road from cigarettes, etc. But
yes,
it just seems that we need to do something, I reckon, ourselves.
I think I certainly agree with you. There's a lot of biomass there, and also the way cars are now. If you pull off in long grass, they can start a fire as well.
Police found that out, didn't they?
As well as cigarettes and the like. So it certainly needs some issue. Is that possible to have another policy?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I think we could put something together in regard to roadside grazing and how that's managed.
Yeah. Knowing, of course, that we'll have to be working through the local land services and the like, and biosecurity's got to be managed and those sort of things. So we've got to be aware of that.
It's got to be done.
Can't be just ad hoc or cut possible. Yes, Councillor Ward.
Mr. Mayor, the other thing is too, we could perhaps talk to the Insurance Council about getting reductions for residents with insurance policies, etc. If we can prove that we're removing that risk of long grass on the side of the road where animals such as kangaroos are feeding and are a potential risk to hit vehicles, which is a major cost in our community for.
Councillor Smith.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I've noticed that travelling around the area, quite a number of places where landholders have actually cut the grass or mowed the grass, so it's roads almost ready to be baled, and considering the needs of people up north, is there some way that we can encourage people to actually bale that product of their mowing and send it up north where it's needed?
I don't think probably we've got, it's not like Victoria that Councillor Wright and I were talking about earlier, where they've got large road reserves that are quite flat and capable of doing it. Getting machinery into a lot of these areas is problematic, so probably not. I think the grazing of stock is probably the way to go for our terrain. Good point. Anything further, Councillor Ham?
I'd just like to, I think it's in there, but I don't see it implicitly, the consideration for people with visual or mobility impairment, particularly in terms of footpaths and now people with scooters and things like that. Maybe through
would that be included in our access?
Yeah, in our disability access plan and also in our engineering guidelines that inform construction
for new construction
and developers if they do new subdivisions. So all that information, that detailed design information
is already.
So if they can be linked to that,
yeah.
that'd be great.
So do we need something that just links the two, or some sort of note on the bottom of this that says that disability? Yeah.
I think it should be stated somewhere that we.
Yeah, sure.
We can do that.
We can link. We
just put a link in.
Yes. That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay.
So through the chair, if would you like to just put a slight variation in the recommendation that officers be requested to vary the policy with a minor amendment, including reference to our disability access provisions? Yeah. And that's consistent with our current, so it's not a major change to the policy of which we would have to go back out and consult.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anything further with those changes? Put the motion. So that's carried. You all catch up? Yep.
Should just, before you vote on it, you should know what you're voting on.
Changes including, sorry, we're just wondering how to add it.
adopted by Council with
Maybe through you, Mr. Chair, maybe that we align the policy with our disability action plan.
so requesting staff to align.
Disability inclusion.
Well, can I just ask a question about whether council has any plant that could bail any of the, Crown lands or anything we manage, or?
Yes, you may ask that question.
No, we
I'll refer it to the
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, we don't have access to, we don't own that sort of equipment. We'd have to do that through some sort of hire arrangement.
Given the fact that we're looking to diversify into bits and pieces, it's something that we could look at.
A lot of farmers do though, don't they? They could approach us and say, can we do that?
Yeah.
If not to be sent away, looking to February, it's going to be pretty late.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I think Councillor Ham raised. Sorry.
Yeah. Just directing traffic a little bit.
Yeah, partnering with landowners and enabling access, enabling landowners access to the road reserve to bail if they felt that was worthwhile for them in some circumstances, maybe an opportunity for us.
Yeah.
Rather try and do it ourselves.
In light of the changes, can I just ask for that vote again? So all in favour?
Thank you.
That's unanimous, thank you. Just got a bit ahead of myself. New South Wales State Library Funding Stage 2. Councillor Cross moving those 5 recommendations? Or 5? Councillor Ham. Councillor Cross?
Yes, look, the Renew Our Libraries funding campaign was extremely successful. It had redressed that imbalance that we have with libraries, which is the biggest example of cost shifting from the government down to the local government, and we were in danger of having to reduce services. And out of that campaign, there was $60 million allocated into libraries over the next 4 years. But the next stage, the phase 2 of this operation, is to get that legislated and the funding linked to the CPI so that it's there forever. And this will mean that if that is put into the whole package, then the libraries can get on with doing their business. They don't have to worry about paying for campaigns, and it will reduce the impact on ratepayers as well. So I would strongly recommend everyone, including us, to go in and have a look at the Renew Our Libraries website and sign up for phase 2. 80% of councils sign up for phase 1, and it shows you the power of signing up to things to get something happening. So please, if we can have a letter, or as we've put into the recommendations, those letters done, as well as everyone signing up.
Further? Put the motion in favour? Carried unanimously. Takes us to 10.3, Radio Upper Murray Service Agreement. There's 2 recommendations there. Can I make a suggestion that number 2, we change that from 42 hours to 50 hours? Council content for the year. Councillor Smith's moving it. Councillor Wright seconding. Anything further?
Given the importance of communication in times of crisis, I think it's very worthwhile to support community radio such as Radio Upper Murray, and of course our local community radio as well. So yes, I think we should.
And given the loss of telecommunications we had last week, the local radio station was very, very important to us.
Which brings me up to Mount Ikes, that there seems to be a concern down there. A lot of people can't get the ABC anymore, and I know there's been I'm just wondering if there's any work being done down there, because, Upper Murray uses Mount Ikes.
Yeah.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. We have committed to undertaking some works at Analyse to help try and address some of those issues. We've issued the works order to a contractor to assist us with that work, so hopefully that happens fairly quickly and maybe goes part way in addressing some of those concerns.
People in Rival Valley will be very happy.
Okay.
While you're on long days.
Oh. Well, I don't know about this.
Any opportunity,
Sounds
John?
dangerous.
It is Christmas.
There's a
Nearly.
arrow in it.
Yeah.
I think it'd be remiss not to take the opportunity to point out the extra efforts of David Eisenhower during that emergency over the weekend, and the emergency management team and all the people that were involved in that. You know, even our own staff. There was Hines who came back from Wagga late at night with telephones to keep everything running, and Shelley and who else was in there?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just building on that also, I'd like to acknowledge the efforts of our internal team, the IT team, about making sure systems were in place to be operational for business continuity as of 8 o'clock on Monday morning. So thank you for the opportunity.
And you giving up time with your daughter?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I may. Just it was really nice to hear when we were on the outskirts, because we still had lots of communication, no problems and anything, but it was nice to hear the team was working well for Chair.
There was certainly a lot of cars up the top of the Adelon Gap using them.
And the Telstra people, Chris
Taylor?
Hargreaves.
Yeah, but you know, he had his eyes hanging out, I think, by the end of the 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, no, done very well.
That was phenomenal. Yeah.
So thank you for that. Nothing further?
Just to ask a question. I'm not saying we should go back to the carrier pigeon days, but maybe we should go back to having a public notice board somewhere in each of the towns.
I
Yeah, not go and knock up on
I
our
believe,
neighbours to find out
well,
what's going on.
I know there's a public notice board in Adelon.
And in Battler.
Official ones?
Yeah. Development League.
Community
runs
ones,
it.
yeah. So it's a job for the community organisation, I think. Put the motion, all in favour?
It's a handball, isn't it?
You walk into that
No, pass it on to me.
one. Takes us to 10.4. Lakeview report. Councillor Benjamin, you've
See ya.
declared an interest in this one. We'll wait for Councillor Benjamin to leave and. Thank you. So, councillors, this is 71 Wynyard Street, change of use of existing hotel to a medical centre, proposed reduction in the car parking spaces. Councillor Ham moving it. Councillor Larder seconding. Councillor Ham.
I just think this is just such a wonderful, wonderful thing for Tumut. It's bringing more doctors. Whatever we can do to help this come to Tumut is fantastic. The car parking spaces, from what I can understand, were said to be something and now there's something else. So I think we want this up and going as soon as possible. There is one part about the people want to fence it off, you know, to delineate this is for the medical centre. I have no trouble with that. It's just I can quite understand why that would be. So I actually support very much the motion of the reduction in car parking spaces as long as it's done well.
Thank you. I'm sure it will be. Any further?
Yes,
Councillor
Mr. Mayor.
Liston?
I totally agree with the concept of the fencing off. I think it would be really good for the medical centre to have the delineation of their parking space, and then any excess of parking for that particular business would then go out into the side street rather than be flooding into the traditional shopping area, parking behind Wynyard Street. So I would support the idea of having a fenced area there. I know that the parking inspector could supervise parking and so on, but I think he has many other things to do. And I just think the fence would make it so much more obvious that that's the parking for the medical centre, and that then the opportunity for any overflow of parking in the side street would be so much better. And would ensure that people didn't park in that space at the detriment of people who are coming from the medical centre.
Highlights what you
Councillor Cross.
My only concern would be about the aesthetics, whether the fence would be aesthetically in line with the building and with the whole area.
Yeah.
Could I speak on that just because I've done a bit of research on it? It would be the same black fencing that's put around the Tumurumba Sports Ground and the new Hammonds, the black fence
With the spikes on top.
with the spikes on top.
Right.
So it is attractive.
Yeah. And there would be open access, no boom gates or anything like that. Yeah.
Not from my understanding.
Councillor Wright.
Can I just get a clarification on what the disabled parking actually is? Is it just
One.
the one? Do you think that's enough?
Given that there's two out the front of the building as well, and I'd say it would be, if you had a disability, ambulatory disability, it would be easier to come through the front door and park it. We provide both those. And whenever I'm looking for a car park, they're mostly vacant, but I can't park there.
There is an ambulance bay there.
I'm not sure.
May I just make a comment there? That would be really important to address, because if it's not there, they're going to be pulling up at the front in the main street.
Well, there is a driveway there.
You can't.
But
Can't?
Well, I wouldn't be recommending
there's no access to you wouldn't put an ambulance there to take a patient, would you?
If I was sick in there, I wouldn't want to be wheeled out in front of all the public on the main street,
Not private.
unless it was an emergency. But
Given that there's probably doctors' car parks there, that you could probably put an ambulance in the doctors' car parks.
I wonder whether the loading bay would be an ambulance.
Well, you
might be, yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm sure we discussed that before. We discussed that right in the beginning.
Certainly, I don't think now's the time to hold it up.
Yeah.
No, we should go ahead with it, but it's going to be a nightmare for parking.
So could we put a third recommendation that the fencing be allowed as required?
Would be happy with that as a secondary?
Yeah.
Given that we don't know what the fencing is, do we know what?
I know that information was actually given to council, so...
We don't have it here.
No.
So do we know what's going to happen with the residents, the flat that's on there? Is that going to be bulldozed or is that going to be retained?
Sorry?
It's condition 3D, so...
3D. So 3D says this consent does not provide for the erection of a security fence.
So through the chair, you could just remove condition 3D. However, if you want to term what type of security fence you might like, then we should actually replace that wording in there. So if council would like, we could defer this item to later on the agenda, and I could seek some advice from our planning team to draft a condition that would be appropriate given the comments Councillor Cross has made in regards to heritage.
That'd be excellent.
So
we talk about a security fence or just an ordinary fence?
A fencing provision. So can council give me some direction? At the moment I'm hearing that you want fencing to be consistent with the amenity of the area, but you want fencing to be allowed. So you don't want razor wire, you don't want barbed wire, you don't want a chain mesh fence. We'll work up some.
Just in terms of expediency, could we not make number 3 to give that over to you, over to the General Manager to
See, why
have
do
the
you,
authority to.
I'm
approve the
confused
fence.
why you need security fencing basically in a public car parking area.
So, through the chair, my understanding is that the security is about security of the parking for the purpose of which it's determined for. So, for the use of the doctors and the professionals using that building need to be able to park near that building and access that building. So, security isn't about security as we would term it in a public car park, but it's security of allowing there. Yes.
And aesthetically pleasing.
And aesthetically pleasing.
So the sort of fences they're erecting around schools now, which
Yes, that's what they're talking about.
well, I think that's too big. I think
That's really high,
that's
yeah.
a bridge too far.
Hey, on this side, that.
So through the chair, given there's some debate on this, I would rather actually have that drafted and our acting executive officer may be able to facilitate that with the planning staff while we continue the meeting and we come back to this item.
Sounds good.
So move and second to happy to do further?
Yes.
Yep, okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Trudy.
Someone,
Over to you, Trudy.
Councillor Benjamin?
We should actually have a mover and a seconder to defer it up if the original mover and seconder would.
Happy for that?
Happy.
All in favour?
Yep.
Carried, thank you.
Thanks, John.
Defer the matter to later.
Just to update you, we've deferred it until we can get some more information on the fence.
Defer it to later this meeting.
So, councillors, at 11.1, minutes of the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee. Councillor Larder, Councillor Ham. Receive the report, note the minutes. Anything from that? All in favour? Carried. Minutes of the Disability Inclusion and Access Reference Group meeting. Councillor Ham. Councillor Kisselman.
This was the first time I went to a DIAG meeting. It was just a very dynamic, very pleasurable group to go as part of. Can't wait to be more part of that. Made me think of a lot of things. And one of the things they've invited all the council to do next year is to have a visually impaired lunch that they'll prepare for us. And we will all be blindfolded to eat our lunch.
Okay.
We're often blindfolded.
Because you don't leave any cups around the lake.
Okay. Right, thank you, Councillor Ham. Put the motion, all in favour. Carried. Thank you. Minutes of the Local Traffic Committee meeting, 27th of November. Councillor Wright and Councillor Cross. All 4 recommendations.
There's 4.7, there's a little bit of a typo in the
Did anyone go?
Festival of Falling Leave.
The falling leaf.
Leave.
Yeah,
leave.
see that?
Here it comes.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. Well picked up. Anything further on those?
I've got a scraping leaves.
Put the motion, all in favour. Carried. Minutes of the Batley Development League. Councillor Smith. Councillor Isselman.
No comment.
No comment. Put the motion, all in favour. Carried unanimously. Minutes of the Softwood Working Group Committee. Councillor Wright. Councillor Cross. Councillor Wright.
Yeah, I attended, I've been attending these meetings for a while, and I went to the Coolac the other day, last Friday, where the Minister Barilaro announced that in excess of $20 million for regional roads or forestry type roads across the 3 LGAs, Gulligai, Kuta, Snowy Valleys and Greater Hume, I think, yeah, Greater Hume. I think we get about 10.3 million out of that for roads in the Snowy Valleys area, which is fantastic. I think we've got to have a real recognise the hard work and dedication of Peter Crow and Diana Gibbs and Phil Clements from SWG Group. They've done a fantastic job over a bloody lot of years and been really well dedicated, and I think we should really recognise them and thank them very much for their hard work.
Thank you. And further that, this morning I went to the launch of the Southwest Slopes Softwood Hub, which was launched at AKD. The minister couldn't be there, but there was quite an array of the timber people there, and it was good to see them all there and all working together. And the forestry hub is going to be a wonderful thing for us, I'm very sure. So once again, thanks to the strong work of the Softwoods Working Group there to get that to us. So that's wonderful.
I should add, just I'm sorry, through you, Mayor, our staff, our staff that attend those meetings and back these people, the SWG.
And supply them with all the
details and the data and the information that's most helpful all the time. Exactly. We've got to make sure to pass on to the staff.
Exactly. Okay, put the motion, all in favour? That's carried unanimously. Minutes of the Talbingo Progress and Ratepayers Association, 6th of November. Councillor Larder, Councillor Cross. Right, put the motion, all in favour? Carried. Councillor, that brings us to the end. We're still waiting on some more information. We might take a recess.
Can we go into confidential?
Deal with the confidential matter and deal with the other matter after confidential, if that suits.
That suits me. Councillor, to have a mover to go into confidential. Councillor Wright, Councillor Kisselman, all in favour? Carried. That brings us to the end of our confidential part of the council meeting. Just for the information, in confidential we discussed the design and construction of the Batlow Library. This is a confidential item under the Local Government Act 1993, section 10A.2D, as it relates to a commercial information of a confidential nature that would, if disclosed, prejudice the commercial position of the person who supplied it, and council considers that the discussion of the matter in an open meeting would be on balance contrary to the public interest. I ask the General Manager to read the recommendation that was adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In relation to item 12.1, the design and construction of Batlow Library, Council resolves the Council received this report on the outcome of negotiations for the design and construction of the Batlow Library project. The Council note the outcomes of the negotiations as detailed in the report and resolve to accept the proposal from Uniplan Group for the design and construction of the Batlow Library. The Council endorsed the General Manager entering into a contract with Uniplan Group for the design and construction of the Batlow Library for the lump sum amount of $742,733.18, excluding GST. Do you want me to say that again? $742,733.18, excluding GST. And the Council advised the unsuccessful contractors in writing.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Councillors, that brings us back to 10.4, that we resume 10.4. Do I have a mover that we resume to 10.4? Councillor Isselman and Councillor Cross. Councillor Benjamin is leaving the room. All in favour? Carried. So we had two recommendations there, and Councillor Ham was suggesting a third recommendation. And my understanding of the recommendation is it's for the erection of a fence to stop cars using the car park who are not attending the doctor's surgery.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm just wondering why a curb's not good enough, but why a fence is needed.
Well, it's that delineation of that obviously then is for the medical. And I think we need to discuss whether or not it can be locked.
Okay. Do you want to go to committee?
Yes.
Councillor Ham, Councillor Risley, all in favour? Carried. Councillor Ham.
I'm very happy for it.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm not sure of our legal rights to be able to prevent someone from putting a fence around their own property. The property is owned by that particular business, and we as council, do we have the right to stop them from putting a fence around their own property?
So through the Mayor, Council has the right to provide planning conditions for matters that require planning approval, of which one is a fence. So Council does have the right to condition the type of fence for this development.
Not a fence.
What are they proposing?
So, yep.
Not a fence, just the type of fence.
The type of fence.
As
So,
opposed to
if I may just defer off to the acting Director of Infrastructure who's inquired on the matter, provide clarity.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, discussing with the relevant staff, the advice I received was that the condition 3D is just about allowing the development to proceed, so not holding anything up, but not approving the erection of a security fence as submitted with the application, and asking that to be considered and come back again potentially as a modification. So not making any determination around whether a fence should go in or not. It's just the fence that was submitted with the application is deemed as not being appropriate for that location, not fitting in with the aesthetics of the area. So by allowing the condition in as it's worded, that allows the development to proceed and gives the opportunity for them to come back with a modification for a different fencing arrangement if that's what they choose to do. And that would be, you know, whether it's locked and what it looks
okay,
like
so
and
you
all
guys
that
handle all
would
that.
be part of that application, that modification that comes back to the relevant staff.
So that modification, will that come with a fee or are we, I don't know. Councillor Lara.
I was just going to say, it's very difficult for us to determine whether it should or shouldn't go ahead, and we don't even know what the proposal is. Like, it's been deferred to us anyway, so I mean, really and truly, we should be advised what it is and whether we think it should go or not go before we move to take anything in or out.
One question I have, who's paying for it?
The fence.
Yeah,
They pay.
we're not paying a share of the fence, it's bounding our...
We don't.
No.
No, we don't have to do that.
What's in their proposal? What's in the
Through Mr. Chair, from what I understand the proposal, again, just advice I've got from staff, that they proposed a 2.1 metre high security fence. And that's, and that's being deemed as not appropriate for the area, but to allow for the rest, for everything else to proceed. I've just taken that out of the
1.1 should be enough,
of the approval.
The curbing is already in place,
Yes.
and curbing delineates
Yes.
that it is an area that's different to the rest of the car
Yes.
park. So wouldn't that be enough?
Well, we'll see, won't we?
Rather than them come back, why can't we just approve it with a 1.2 metre heritage style fence? And if they like it, they can do it. If they don't, well...
Come back with it.
I'd be happier getting a recommendation from a council officer and maybe a heritage person.
The disadvantage of your suggestion is the fact that, as we've had from recommendation, is that allowing them to continue, they can come back and discuss further with the fence, whereas if we go and say you've got to put that fence in, then they go and say, well, we don't want to put that fence in and it's too expensive. So therefore the whole project is going to slow down. So by leaving the fence sitting on the fence, we can get on.
That's fair enough, but I think the amendment fees are like $600 or $700 on it.
That's not our problem.
Well, I think in fairness to them,
Councillors, another option is for you to allow the construction of a fence at the site to the satisfaction of council's designated officer, and then hence it won't, it is included in this, and then there's just a clarification around that.
Sounds good.
It may well be that they don't need a fence
Yeah, exactly.
in the
They don't.
Sounds like they wanted a fence that was 2.5 metres
So,
high.
are we happy to go with the general manager's recommendation?
Mr Mayor, if I may,
Yeah.
on page 2 in the background information is the proposal parking required spaces, and to answer Councillor Pritchard's question about ambulance drop and pick up, they've actually got a delivery and pick up bay, so I'm not sure if that's an ambulance bay, but it sounds like it could possibly be.
Maybe one side of this as well.
Change 3B.
So we'll make those changes to put in 3.
Is that the council change the conditions of consent for item 3B to council permits the erection of a fence to the satisfaction of council's designated officer.
There's also the question of whether it's to be locked at any time.
The council permits
Well,
the erection.
that'd be up to the council officer.
Of the fence.
Who will be that council officer?
Oh. But it says
On
the powerful one over there.
he knows what all about
Satisfaction of council's designated officer. I might just put there.
I can't see the point of it.
No.
You know, if you can't police it,
The general manager.
Yeah, why have it?
why have it?
Look at the curbing, you see it? There's curbing around there already. Clearly
That's
delineates.
pointless.
It's a waste of money.
I want the 2.5.
So, councillor says the recommendation there.
3D. Because of vandals.
So 3D needs
To provide consent. Sorry, through you, Mr Chair.
Yeah. 3D, not 3B.
Correct.
Yeah, 3D, thank you.
It should have proper security.
Councillors, we're in committee. Would someone like to move to go? Councillor Ham, Councillor Wright, all in favour?
That's into. I'll just type it.
And hereby in the fullest.
Oh, you'd be so lucky. I've just got this motion to put out.
Dare I say,
Okay.
Sorry, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so councillors, now we have 3 recommendations there. And we have a move and a seconder, and move and a seconder, happy with that?
Do you want to read out the change?
The change is, 3, it's change the condition of consent for item 3D to that council permits the erection of a fence to the satisfaction of council's designated officer or authorise the general manager to provide consent.
very good.
Happy with that?
Yep.
Put the motion, all in favour? Carried? Unanimous? Thank you. Councillors, that's the end of our council meeting.
The only thing is there, I think, just for clarity, I actually didn't move to defer that. I actually was a seconder. It's just round the wrong way, so I just think you need to clarify. I was actually the seconder of Julia, and I think Bruce was for the defer.
Is that correct, Ken?
No, I'm the seconder for Councillor Julia Ham and Councillor John Martin. Yep. And then it was
Don.
Bruce.
Let's fix that up.
Thank you, Councillor Martin.
Bruce. Bruce.
Councillor Benjamin's back in the room. So that's our final meeting for the year. I'd just like to thank everybody for their support through the year and the start. It's been a great year and we've been able to achieve a lot. We've got a lot of work ahead of us still. And, I'm confident that we'll be up to the challenge. I wish everybody a very, very happy Christmas and a safe holiday period, and look forward to seeing you at an extraordinary meeting, if not before, in January. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.